Alright guys, welcome to Arsenal 23. My name's Seth. Today we're going to be comparing the 327 Federal Magnum to the 357 Magnum. Now the guns we're going to be comparing today are both Ruger SP-101s with 3-inch barrels, so it should be a pretty fair comparison. Now a lot of you guys might not have heard about the 327 Federal Magnum. So what is it? Basically, the 327 Federal Magnum was introduced in 2008 through a collaborative effort by Federal and Ruger. It was intended to provide the power of a 357 Magnum in a 6-shot compact revolver, whose cylinder would typically hold 5 rounds of .38 or 357. The 327 is actually an example of a super magnum, being a magnum of a magnum, the 32 H&R Magnum to be exact. Speaking of the 32 H&R, the 327 Federal will safely chamber and fire a 32 H&R, along with 32 long and 32 Smith & Wesson short. Some revolvers chambered in 327 can also fire the 32 ACP cartridge, making the 327 a highly versatile chambering. 327 also has notably less recoil, which is a big deal when shooting small frame revolvers like these. But even with less recoil and that 6th round, how will it compare to the almighty 357? Let's learn a little bit more about that cartridge. Well, everyone knows about the infamous 357 Magnum, a revolver cartridge born from violence, being the deadly gang shootouts of law enforcement in the mid-1930s. The 38 Special was unable to penetrate car doors and early ballistic vests, so the 357 Magnum was introduced to solve these problems with velocity. Similarly, all 357 Magnum revolvers safely chamber and fire the 38 Special, offering a bit of versatility as well. The 357 Magnum is renowned for its extremely effective terminal ballistics. Will the 327 be able to compete? Hopefully we can shed some light on that. Alright, so now that we know a little bit more about both calibers, let's go ahead and run them through the chronograph and see what kind of numbers we get. So first we're going to start with the Fiocchi 357 Magnum. These are 142 grain full metal jackets. 12-13, 12-12, duplicate 12-12, 12-04, and 12-05. Next, we'll try the American Gunner 357 Mag 125 grain FTX jacketed hollow point. $13.14, $13.41. Got an error. $13.45. 1303. Next, let's try the Federal American Eagle 100 grain 327 Magnum jacketed soft points. $12.52, $13.19, $13.57, $12.66. Next, let's try some jacketed hollow points. This is Federal's premium 85 grain Hydra-Shock jacketed hollow points. $12.24, $12.68. Error code. Second error code. $12.75. Guys, so we've crunched the numbers already. So these are really interesting results. So first, with the 327 American Eagle 100 grain projectiles, we got an average velocity of 1302 and an energy foot-pound reading of 376. With our 85 grain Federal Premiums, we got a velocity of 1251. And you might say, that's a lighter projectile and it's going slower. Those are actually low recoil rounds that Federal Premium has come out with, so that translated into an energy foot-pound reading of 295. With the 357 142 grain Fiocchis, we got an average velocity of 1209, which translates to 461 energy foot-pounds. And with the 125 grain American Gunners, we got an average velocity of 1327 and 489 energy foot-pounds. Now you might have noticed we had a lot of error codes. That chronograph's been through hell. I've had it for a few years. I need to get a new one. But we did go ahead and shoot some rounds off camera just so we can get 5 shots per type of ammunition. So now that we've crunched the numbers, let's shoot some water jugs and have some fun. Alright guys, so now we're going to shoot some water jugs. So we're going to start with the 357. This is my man Parker. He is actually the proud owner of that 357 that we've been testing all day, and I would happen to be the owner of the 327. So now we're going to test the 327 and 357 against some water jugs. It's a fairly simple test, but hopefully we'll be able to see a little bit of a difference. Parker, go right ahead. Alright, so that was pretty fun. Now we're going to try out the 327. So you'll notice that there are 6 jugs on the table, and that's another benefit of the 327 Federal. You are able to fit 6 rounds in the same size gun. Alright, now let's try some ballistics gel. Alright guys, so the water jugs were a lot of fun, but let's get back to being scientific. So we've got a gel block today. It's approximately 20 inches long. First I'm going to be testing the Federal Premium 85 grain jacketed hollow points out of the 327 Federal. Got a solid hit on there. I'm going to put one more. Alright, we've got 2 solid hits. Now let's test the 357 Magnum. Alright guys, now let's test those 125 grain American Gunner jacketed hollow points out of the 357. Got to reset our block. Alright, we got a block reset. Let's take a second shot. Alright, let's see what we got. Alright guys, so that was really fun. Let's see how effective they were. So with the 327, both rounds stopped just shy of 13 3/4 inches. So you'll see that it bounced back to about 13 1/2, and the second one is right under it, stopping at about 13 1/4. So you can see that both of those opened up really nice. The 357s continued down. We'll flip the block over so we can see a little better. The 357s, you'll see a lot of damage up in the front of the block. 357s both come up to exactly 16 inches. Let's cut them out of the gel and see what they look like. So the 357 is going to be on your left and the 327 is going to be on your right. Let's see what kind of expansion we got. With the first 357, getting just over a ½ inch at 0.51. With the second one, getting what seems to be a little bit more, and it is. So we got on one side 0.55, just a little bit more consistent though. With the 327s, we're at that ½ inch mark, 0.51. See, on that side is 5.2. This one seems to be just a little bit smaller. Yep, coming in exactly at a ½ inch. So let's see what kind of weight retention we have, because the 357's fragmented a lot throughout the gel. You'll see right in here we've got chunks everywhere. So we had to adjust for the wind, but with our first 357 round, we started with 125 grains. Now we've got 113. See, with our second 357 round, we're at about 114, 115 grains. With our 327 rounds, we started out with 85 grains, and now we're sitting at about 84 if the wind will quit messing with us. With our second one, we're sitting at again about 84, so great weight retention with those bonded jacketed hollow points. Alright guys, so all that was pretty fun. We got the gel out, got all our measurements and everything. Let's go meet up with Parker at the back of his truck and see what we can take away from all this. Alright Parker, we had a lot of fun shooting today. We spent a lot of money, spent a lot of time. So everything being said and done, what are your thoughts on the 327 Federal Magnum?
327 did really good as far as penetration and expansion. Penetration itself, I have to hand it to 357 a lot farther into that gel as we saw. 327 still expanded really great and had a ton of penetration, but 357's been around a lot longer and availability is there too. So Seth, what kind of hollow points are we running here and what kind of costs are we looking at?
So yeah, as far as the hollow points go, we're running the Federal Premium 85 grain bonded jacketed hollow points, and I think that lent to the 327's advantage here because we got the same amount of expansion out of a smaller diameter bullet. Now these Federal Premium rounds, they are going to be hard to find for the 327. But that being said, they were only about $32 at the local gun shop. As far as target ammo for the 327, you're going to be looking at some higher prices. It's not as available as 357. So for this box here, we paid about $40 to $45. That's what you're going to be able to find them for, if you can find them. As far as the 357's ammo today, we tested out the Hornady American Gunner, and that's going to be with Hornady's XTP. I said FTX earlier, I was mistaken. But this is going to be with the XTP hollow point. Those hollow points have been around forever, and they're probably more effective hollow points. But we wanted to try to get something that's kind of in the same price range. So these right here are running about $30, as comparable to the 327's about $32 for the hollow points. For the Full Metal Jacket Fiocchis today that we were running in the 357, you used to be able to find these everywhere. At our local gun shop, you can buy them for about 35 bucks for 50 rounds, which is still pretty up there for these days. But you're going to be able to find these a whole lot easier than you are the 327. Now, that being said, I feel as though the 6th round of the 327 gives you a lot more benefits over the 5 rounds of 357.
Absolutely, and still having the same size of the gun, that's a huge advantage.
Correct. So even though we did see a little bit better performance and a little bit higher energy in the 357, well, I shouldn't say a little bit higher performance, it's substantially more performance out of the 357 than the 327. At least that's what we found today. But you got to keep in mind, I'm able to hold 6 rounds of that 327 instead of your 5 rounds of 357.
Yep.
So with everything being said, would you trade your 357 in for a 327?
Thoughts definitely back in my head. Yeah. That extra round could mean the difference in life and death. So.
Well, and that's the thing too, is I can think of a lot of problems that I might be able to solve with 6 rounds instead of 5.
Yep.
Like what happens if I were to miss? Well, like we saw with the water jugs, I missed twice in a row. If I wouldn't have had that last round, water jugs could have got me.
That's
you
right.
know?
That's right.
So, all right, guys. Well, that's pretty much all we have for you today. Let us know what other calibers you'd like to see. We've been thinking about getting a couple things in the works, and we're just going to, we're always going to have the ballistic gel out.
Oh, yeah.
And that's it. We'll see you next time. But yeah, I think we're gonna, what the fuck is that noise? Parker!